The research ship Harbinger moved slowly through space toward the blue and green planet below. Dr. Lisa Morgan pressed her face against the small window in her lab and watched the world grow larger. After 3 years of travel, they had finally reached Kepler 442b, the first planet outside their solar system that showed signs of life. All teams report to the briefing room. Captain Jake Sullivan's voice came through the ship's speakers. Lisa grabbed her tablet and headed down the narrow hallway. The ship felt cramped after so many months in space, but soon they would be walking on solid ground again. The briefing room was small and filled with the hum of machines. Captain Sullivan stood at the front, his tall frame filling the space. His dark eyes looked tired but alert. Around the room sat the other team members who would make the first trip to the planet's surface. "Listen up, everyone," Sullivan began. "We've been watching this planet for weeks now. Our scans show it's covered with forests, oceans, and what looks like animal life. Big animal life." He pressed a button and images appeared on the wall screen. "Some of these creatures are huge. We need to be careful down there." Alex Turner, the security chief, leaned forward in his chair. He was a short, muscular man with scars on his hands from years of military service. "What kind of weapons are we taking, Captain?" "Standard stunners and emergency flares," Sullivan replied. "We're here to study, not to fight. But stay alert. We don't know what we're walking into." Lisa raised her hand. "What about the atmospheric readings? Can we breathe down there?" "The air is good," said Nina Rodriguez, the communications expert. She was young, maybe 25, with bright eyes and quick fingers that never stopped moving over her equipment. "Oxygen levels are actually higher than Earth. Temperature is warm but not too hot. It should feel like a nice spring day." Sullivan nodded. "We land in 2 hours. Lisa, you're our biology expert. What you find down there could change everything we know about life in the universe. Alex, keep us safe. Nina, make sure we can talk to the ship at all times." He looked around the room. "Any questions?" Nobody spoke. They had been planning this moment for years. 2 hours later, Lisa felt her stomach drop as their small landing craft broke through the planet's atmosphere. Through the window, she could see endless green forests stretching in all directions. Rivers cut through the landscape like silver ribbons. In the distance, mountains rose into the clouds. "There." Sullivan pointed to a clearing near a river. "We'll set down there, plenty of space and close to water." The craft landed with a soft bump. Lisa's heart pounded as she put on her gear. She carried sample containers, a camera, and instruments to test soil and plants. Alex checked his stunner one more time. Nina made sure her radio was working. Sullivan opened the door and stepped outside first. The others followed. The air smelled of flowers and rich earth. Birds, or something like birds, called from the trees. A warm breeze touched Lisa's face and she smiled. After 3 years breathing recycled ship air, this felt wonderful. "Spread out, but stay close," Sullivan ordered. "We'll explore for 1 hour, then return to the craft." Lisa knelt and scooped soil into a container. It was dark and full of what looked like tiny worms. She photographed several plants with strange purple leaves and flowers that seemed to glow in the sunlight. Everything was so alive, so different from the dead worlds they had passed on their journey. Alex stood guard near a group of tall trees, his weapon ready. Nina set up her equipment to boost their radio signal back to the ship. "Captain," Nina called softly, "I'm getting readings of something large moving through the forest, about half a mile that way." She pointed toward a line of enormous trees, with trunks as wide as their landing craft. Sullivan motioned for everyone to stay quiet. They waited and listened. At first, Lisa heard only the wind and distant bird calls. Then came a new sound, a deep rumbling that seemed to shake the ground under their feet. The sound grew louder. Whatever was making it was getting closer. "Should we get back to the craft?" Alex whispered, his hand tight on his weapon. Sullivan shook his head. "Hold position. We came here to meet whatever lives on this world." The trees at the forest edge began to shake. Leaves fell like rain. Then the creature stepped into the clearing. Lisa had never seen anything so magnificent and terrifying. It stood nearly 12 feet tall on 6 powerful legs. Its body was covered in scales that shifted color from deep red to gold in the sunlight. 2 large wings folded against its back. Its head was long and narrow, filled with teeth that gleamed like white daggers. But what struck Lisa most were its eyes. They were large and intelligent, a deep amber color that seemed to look right through her. The creature moved with the fluid grace of a cat, but had the presence of something much more dangerous. Every step made the ground tremble slightly. Its amber eyes swept over the humans, studying each of them in turn. Alex raised his stunner, but Sullivan held up a hand to stop him. "Don't move," the captain whispered. "Let's see what it does." The creature approached slowly, its head low and eyes fixed on the small group of humans. It stopped 10 feet away from Captain Sullivan and lifted its massive head. For several long seconds, human and alien stared at each other without moving. Lisa held her breath. This was the moment that would determine whether first contact would be peaceful or deadly. The creature was clearly this world's top predator. It could kill all of them in seconds if it chose to. But something strange happened. The creature's eyes, which had been hard and focused, seemed to soften. Its head tilted slightly to one side, like a dog trying to understand a new sound. A low rumbling came from its throat, but not the aggressive growl Lisa expected. It sounded almost like a cat purring. The creature took one step back, then another. Its eyes never left Sullivan's face. After a moment that felt like hours, it turned and walked slowly back into the forest. The last thing they saw was its long tail disappearing between the trees. Nobody moved for a full minute after it was gone. "What just happened?" Nina whispered. Lisa stared at the spot where the creature had stood. In all her years studying animal behavior, she had never seen anything like this. The creature had every advantage. It was bigger, stronger, and on its home territory. It could have easily killed them all. Instead, it had looked into Sullivan's eyes and chosen to walk away. "I don't know," Sullivan said quietly. "But I think we just learned something very important about this world and about ourselves." 3 weeks after the encounter on Kepler 442b, Commander Ryan Hayes stood on the burning sands of Xerion Prime and wondered if he was about to die. The desert planet stretched endlessly in all directions, its red sand glowing under twin suns. The heat made the air shimmer like water, and even through his cooling suit, Ryan could feel sweat running down his back. "Contact is 200 meters ahead," reported his team member, Dr. Sam Mitchell. The xenopsychologist crouched behind a large rock, watching his scanner. "It's big, Ryan, really big." Ryan nodded and checked his equipment one more time. After hearing about Captain Sullivan's strange meeting with the creature on Kepler 442b, every first contact team had been given new orders. Watch the eyes. Record everything. Try to understand what was happening between humans and alien predators. "Doctor, Kate Wilson, are you getting good readings?" Ryan asked into his radio. "All systems recording," came the reply from their evolutionary biologist who was monitoring from their ship in orbit. "Heart rates, brain activity, eye movement, everything. We need to know what makes these creatures react the way they do." Ryan stepped out from behind the rocks and walked across the sand toward the creature's territory. His boots left deep prints in the hot desert floor. In the distance, he could see movement near a group of tall stone pillars that jutted up from the sand like ancient fingers. The creature emerged from behind the stones slowly. Ryan had read the reports, but seeing the sand claw in person took his breath away. It looked like a giant scorpion crossed with a spider, standing 8 feet tall on 8 thick legs. Its body was covered in golden plates that reflected the sunlight, like mirrors. 2 massive claws snapped at the air, each one large enough to cut a man in half. But the most frightening part was its tail, which curved high over its back and ended in a stinger as long as Ryan's arm. The sandclaw moved across the sand without making a sound. Its multiple eyes focused on Ryan as it approached. This was the ruler of Xerion Prime's deserts, a creature that had no natural enemies and had never learned to fear anything. Ryan stood perfectly still and let the creature come closer. Every instinct told him to run or reach for his weapon, but he forced himself to stay calm. The sandclaw stopped 15 feet away and raised its front section, bringing its main eyes level with Ryan's face. For a long moment, they stared at each other. Ryan looked directly into the creature's largest eyes, which were deep black and reflected his own image back at him. He tried to keep his breathing steady and his gaze firm. Something changed in the creature's posture. Its claws, which had been held high and ready to strike, slowly lowered. The dangerous tail that had been poised to attack curved down toward the sand. The sandclaw made a soft clicking sound, almost like it was thinking. Then, just like the creature on Kepler 442b, it backed away. Step by step, the massive predator retreated across the sand until it disappeared behind the stone pillars. Ryan stood alone in the desert, his heart pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. "Did you get that?" he asked into his radio. "We got everything," Dr. Wilson replied from orbit. "Ryan, the readings are almost identical to what we recorded with Captain Sullivan. Same brain patterns, same eye movements, same result." 2 days later, on the ice world of Titan's Edge, pilot Emma Clark faced a pack of creatures that looked like wolves made of living crystal. The frost moths surrounded her landing craft, their breath creating clouds of steam in the freezing air. Each one was the size of a small horse with teeth like icicles, and eyes that glowed blue in the planet's dim light. Emma stepped out of her craft wearing a thick thermal suit. The cold bit at her face immediately, but she ignored it. The pack leader, larger than the others and covered in spikes of ice, approached her slowly. "Easy there," Emma said softly, though she knew the creature couldn't understand her words. "Let's see what you make of me." The pack leader stopped just out of reach and lifted its head to look into Emma's eyes. The other frostmoths formed a circle around them, watching silently. Steam rose from their mouths as they breathed, creating a strange fog that swirled around the group. Emma kept her eyes locked on the pack leader's glowing blue gaze. She had read the reports from Kepler 442b and Zarian Prime. She knew what to expect, but it still amazed her when the massive wolf creature slowly lowered its head in what looked almost like a bow. One by one, the other frostmoths backed away. The pack leader was the last to leave, walking backward across the ice while keeping its eyes on Emma until it disappeared into the swirling snow. Back on the research ship, Dr. Lisa Morgan studied the recordings from all 3 encounters. She sat in her lab surrounded by screens showing footage of the 3 different meetings: Captain Sullivan with the dragon-like creature, Commander Hayes with the sandclaw, and Emma Clark with the frost moths. "It's not a coincidence," she said to Dr. Mitchell, who was reviewing brain scan data at the next table. 3 different worlds, 3 completely different species, and the same result every time. Dr. Mitchell looked up from his work. "The brain patterns are fascinating, Lisa. In each case, the human's brain shows the same activity in the areas associated with focus and dominance. But here's what's really interesting." He pointed to his screen. "The alien creature's behavior suggests they're not just retreating, they're showing submission." "Submission?" Lisa leaned over to look at his data. "You mean they're not just avoiding a fight?" "Exactly. Look at the body language in each recording. These aren't creatures running away in fear. They're creatures acknowledging something they recognize as superior." Sam pulled up video clips side by side. "Watch the sandclaw lower its claws. See how the frostmaw pack leader bows its head. That dragon creature on Kepler 442b even made what sounded like a purring noise." Lisa studied the footage carefully. But what are they recognizing? What do our eyes have that makes these predators react this way? Dr. Kate Wilson's voice came through the communication system from her own ship. "I think I'm starting to understand. I've been comparing the eye structure and movement patterns of all our team members with databases of Earth predators. There's something unique about how humans look at things." "What do you mean?" Lisa asked. "Human eyes are forward-facing, which marks us as pursuit predators, not prey animals. But it's more than that. The way we focus, the intensity of our gaze, the way we track movement, it's all characteristic of something very specific, which is an apex predator. Not just any predator, but the kind that sits at the very top of the food chain. These alien creatures are recognizing something in our eyes that tells them we're not just another species they might hunt or fight. We're something that hunts the hunters." Lisa sat back in her chair and thought about this. On Earth, humans had climbed to the top of the food chain not through strength or speed, but through intelligence and determination. They had become the planet's ultimate predator by learning to hunt everything else. So these creatures look into our eyes and see, she began. They see what they are, but taken to the next level, Dr. Mitchell finished. They see the ultimate expression of what it means to be a predator. Lisa looked at the recordings again. In each case, the alien predator had approached confidently, expecting to deal with just another creature that had wandered into its territory. But after looking into human eyes, each one had recognized something that made it step back and show respect. We need more data, Lisa said finally. We need to visit more worlds, meet more predators, and figure out exactly what they're seeing in us that we don't even know is there. As she spoke, she realized they were on the edge of discovering something fundamental about humanity's place in the universe. Something that might explain why humans had always felt driven to explore, to push boundaries, to never accept limitations. Maybe the answer was written in their eyes all along. Dr. Lisa Morgan rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the computer screen for the 100th time that day. She had been studying the recordings from 12 different worlds now, and the pattern was always the same. Every apex predator they encountered would look into human eyes and then back away with what could only be called respect. Lisa, you need to see this, called Dr. Ben Foster from across the lab. The paleontologist was hunched over his own computer, surrounded by ancient fossil images and evolutionary charts. I think I found something important. Lisa walked over to Ben's desk. On his screen were pictures of early human skulls from millions of years ago, alongside skulls of various Earth predators. What am I looking at, Ben? Eye socket placement, Ben said, pointing at the images. Look at how human eye sockets changed over time. Our earliest ancestors had eyes on the sides of their heads like prey animals. But as we evolved, our eyes moved to the front of our faces. That's basic biology, Lisa said. Forward-facing eyes give better depth perception for hunting. Yes, but look at this. Ben pulled up more images. I've been comparing early human skulls with the skulls of Earth's most successful predators. Lions, tigers, wolves, eagles. There's something special about the eye socket shape and the way the skull is built around the eyes. Dr. Sam Mitchell walked over to join them. What kind of special? Ben highlighted different parts of the skull images. The bone structure around human eyes is designed for one thing: intense focus. Look at how the brow ridge developed, how the eye muscles attached to the skull. Everything about human eye anatomy is built for the kind of stare that can track prey for hours without blinking. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. You're saying we evolved specifically to have predator eyes? Not just predator eyes, Ben said excitedly. The most advanced predator eyes that ever developed on Earth. Think about it. Early humans weren't the biggest or strongest creatures on the planet. They didn't have claws or fangs or poison, but they had something else. Intelligence, Sam said. And the eyes to use it, Ben added. Humans developed the ability to focus on a target with an intensity that no other Earth predator could match. They could track animals for days, plan complex hunts, work together to bring down creatures 10 times their size. And it all started with the eyes. Lisa sat down heavily in a chair. So when these alien predators look into our eyes, they're seeing the end result of millions of years of evolution that turned a weak prey animal into the ultimate hunter, Ben finished. They're seeing eyes that were designed by evolution itself to be better at predating than anything else that ever lived. Dr. Kate Wilson's voice came through the communication system. Lisa, are you there? I just finished analyzing the brain scans from our latest encounter. We're here, Kate. What did you find? Something incredible. When humans make eye contact with these alien predators, specific parts of our brains light up. The same parts that activate when a person is hunting or tracking something. But here's the strange part. These brain areas are more developed in humans than in any other Earth species. Sam leaned toward the speaker. What does that mean? It means that even when we're not actively hunting, our brains are constantly in a low-level predator mode. Every time we look at something, we're unconsciously evaluating it the way a hunter evaluates prey. Distance, speed, weak points, escape, routes. It's automatic. Lisa felt pieces clicking together in her mind. And the alien predators can sense this? I think so. There's something about the way humans focus, the intensity behind our gaze, that communicates predator status on a level that transcends species. It's like a universal language that all predators understand. Ben pulled up another image on his screen. Look at this. I found some old research about predator hierarchy in the wild. When two predators meet, there are specific behaviors they use to determine who's higher on the food chain. Eye contact is the most important one. The image showed two lions staring at each other. The text explained how predators use direct eye contact to establish dominance without fighting. The more confident predator maintains steady eye contact, while the weaker one eventually looks away. So when Captain Sullivan stared down that dragon creature, Lisa said slowly, he was unconsciously communicating that humans are higher up the food chain. Exactly, Ben said. And the creature understood the message and responded appropriately. Dr. Mitchell was studying his own data. This explains why the encounters are so consistent. It's not magic or coincidence. It's biology. These alien predators evolved on their own worlds to understand predator hierarchies, just like Earth predators did. When they see human eyes, they're reading biological signals that tell them exactly where humans fit in the universal pecking order. Lisa stood up and walked to the window that looked out into space. But how can creatures from different worlds all understand the same signals? They evolved completely separately from us. Maybe predator behavior isn't as different across the universe as we thought, Kate's voice suggested through the speaker. Maybe there are universal rules about how predators work, regardless of what planet they come from. Ben nodded enthusiastically. Think about it. On every world with complex life, you're going to have predators and prey. The successful predators will be the ones that can accurately judge threats and avoid fighting battles they can't win. Being able to read predator signals would be a survival advantage anywhere in the universe. So human eyes carry a signal that says ultimate predator in a language that every hunter in the galaxy can understand, Sam said. Lisa turned back to her colleagues. That means every time we meet a new apex predator, we're not just making first contact, we're announcing that humans are at the top of the cosmic food chain. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this idea. They had come into space thinking of humans as explorers, scientists, and diplomats. They had never considered that they might be something much more fundamental. There's one more thing, Ben said quietly. I've been looking at human evolution from a different angle. Most scientists focus on how humans developed intelligence and tools. But what if those weren't the most important changes? What do you mean? Lisa asked. What if the most important evolutionary development was the predator instinct itself? What if humans became successful not just because they got smarter, but because they became better hunters than anything else on Earth? Ben pulled up a timeline of human evolution. Look at when humans really started to dominate the planet. It wasn't just when they developed language or tools. It was when they developed the ability to hunt in coordinated groups, to track prey across vast distances, to never give up once they decided something was worth having. Lisa stared at the timeline. You're saying humans evolved to be persistence, predators. The ultimate persistence predators, Ben corrected. A human with a goal doesn't just hunt, they obsess, they plan, they adapt. They never stop until they get what they want. And that drive, that relentless focus, shows in their eyes. Sam looked around the room at his colleagues. So when these alien predators look into human eyes, they see something that won't stop hunting until it gets what it wants. They see the end result of evolution's attempt to create the perfect predator, Lisa said. Not perfect in terms of strength or speed, but perfect in terms of determination and intelligence. The implications were staggering. Humans hadn't just accidentally become the dominant species on Earth. They had been shaped by millions of years of evolution specifically to be better at predating than anything else. And now as they spread across the galaxy, every apex predator they met could see that evolutionary history written in their eyes. We need to tell the other ships, Lisa said finally. Every human crew out there needs to understand what they represent when they make first contact. What do we tell them? Sam asked. Lisa looked out at the stars again. We tell them the truth, that humans aren't just explorers in space, they're the ultimate predators, and every creature in the galaxy can see it just by looking into their eyes. Dr. Lisa Morgan felt her heart racing as the submarine descended through the dark waters of Oceanus 7. The aquatic world was covered entirely by a deep ocean that stretched from pole to pole. Somewhere in these waters lived the deep claw, a creature so large and dangerous that the first survey team had fled without getting close. 200 meters and descending, reported Dr. Chris Baker from the pilot seat. The marine biologist had volunteered to test their theory about human predator eyes in the most extreme environment they could find. Water pressure is holding steady. All systems normal. Through the small window, Lisa could see nothing but black water. Their submarine's lights cut through the darkness, but the ocean seemed to swallow the beams after just a few meters. Somewhere out there, something 40 feet long was moving through its domain. Dr. Rachel Stone, are you getting good readings from orbit? Lisa asked into her radio. Everything is recording perfectly, came the reply from the anthropologist monitoring, from their ship above. Brain activity, eye tracking, stress levels. We'll know exactly what happens down there. The submarine had been modified with special cameras that could record eye movements and facial expressions even in the dark water. This was their most important test yet. If their theory was right, human eyes would communicate predator status, even to a creature that had never seen land. Contact on sonar, Chris announced. Something big moving toward us from the east. Speed is slow but steady. Lisa pressed her face to the window but saw only darkness. How big? Sonar reads 42 feet long, 8 feet wide. It's definitely the deep claw. Through the black water, Lisa began to see a faint glow. The creature was bioluminescent, creating its own light in the deep ocean. The glow grew brighter as it approached, and soon she could make out the deep claw's incredible form. It looked like a giant sea serpent with fins that flowed like silk ribbons. Its body was covered in scales that glowed with soft blue and green light. The head was long and narrow, filled with teeth that looked like crystal daggers. But what struck Lisa most were its eyes. They were huge, maybe 3 feet across, and they glowed with the same soft light as the rest of its body. It's beautiful, Lisa whispered. And deadly, Chris added. Those teeth could cut through our hull like paper. The deep claw circled their submarine slowly, its massive body moving with graceful power. Lisa could feel the water pressure change as the creature swam past, creating currents that rocked their small vessel. It's studying us, Chris observed, trying to figure out what we are. Let's give it a chance to look closer, Lisa said. Can you position us so I can make eye contact through the front window? Chris carefully maneuvered the submarine until they were facing the approaching creature. The deep claw stopped about 20 feet away and brought its massive head level with their front window. Its glowing eyes were now directly in front of Lisa. Here we go, Lisa said softly. She moved to the front of the submarine and looked directly into the creature's enormous eyes. For a moment, she felt overwhelmed by the size and alien beauty of the deep claw. Its eyes were like looking into glowing pools of deep ocean water. But Lisa forced herself to maintain steady eye contact, just as Captain Sullivan and the others had done. The deep claw's eyes seemed to focus on her face. Lisa could almost feel the creature's intelligence studying her, trying to understand what it was seeing. She kept her gaze steady and focused, letting her natural predator instincts guide her behavior. Slowly, something changed in the creature's posture. Its head, which had been held high and alert, began to lower slightly. The aggressive tension in its body seemed to relax. Most remarkably, the deep claw began to emit a low, musical sound that vibrated through the water and into their submarine. It's singing, Chris said in amazement. The song continued for several minutes as the deep claw slowly backed away from their submarine. Its movements were no longer aggressive or territorial. Instead, the creature seemed to be showing respect, the same way the land predators had done. Incredible, Dr. Stone's voice crackled through the radio from orbit. The brain patterns are identical to previous encounters. Lisa, your predator response activated the moment you made eye contact. As they watched, the deep claw disappeared back into the dark depths, its song fading until only silence remained. But their test wasn't over yet. As they prepared to surface, their sonar picked up another contact. This one was smaller, maybe 15 feet long. "Juvenile deep claw," Chris announced. "Probably young enough that it hasn't learned all the adult behaviors yet." The young creature approached their submarine with the curiosity of youth. It swam in quick circles around them, its smaller body glowing with brighter colors than the adult. When it finally came close enough for eye contact, Lisa was ready. But something different happened this time. The juvenile deep claw looked into Lisa's eyes and showed no recognition at all. Instead of backing away respectfully, it continued to circle their submarine, bumping against the hull with playful curiosity. It doesn't understand the signal, Lisa realized. It's too young to know what human eyes mean. "That's actually perfect," Dr. Stone said from orbit. "It proves that this recognition isn't automatic. It's learned behavior that gets passed down through predator species." Chris started the submarine's ascent toward the surface. "So adult predators teach their young to recognize superior predators?" "It makes sense from an evolutionary standpoint," Lisa replied. "A young predator that can't recognize dangerous opponents won't survive long enough to reproduce. The ability to read predator signals would be one of the first things parents would teach their offspring." As they rose through the dark water, Lisa thought about the implications. If predator species across the galaxy taught their young to recognize superior hunters, then the reputation of human eyes might spread even faster than humans themselves could travel. "Dr. Stone, I need you to search our databases for something," Lisa said into the radio. "What are you looking for?" "Historical records from the other worlds we've visited. I want to know if any of the alien civilizations have legends or stories about creatures with special eyes." "That's an interesting idea. Looking into it now." Several minutes passed as they continued toward the surface. Then Dr. Stone's excited voice came through the radio. "Lisa, you're not going to believe this. I found references in the cultural databases from 6 different worlds, stories about the Watchers from beyond the stars and those whose gaze tames the fiercest beasts. Some of these legends are thousands of years old." Lisa felt chills run down her spine. Thousands of years? But humans have only been in space for decades. That's what makes it so incredible. These civilizations were telling stories about creatures like humans long before we ever left Earth. It's like they were somehow expecting us. Chris looked over from the pilot controls. "How is that possible?" "Maybe it's not about expecting humans. Specifically," Lisa said slowly, "maybe it's about understanding that somewhere in the universe evolution would eventually create the ultimate predator. And maybe these civilizations have been waiting to see what that predator would look like." The submarine broke through the surface of Oceanus 7's vast ocean. Above them, the alien stars shone down on the water. Lisa realized that each of those stars might have worlds where predators told stories about the day when the ultimate hunters would arrive from space. "We need to collect more of these legends," she said. "If civilizations across the galaxy have been expecting something like humans to eventually appear, then our role in the universe might be much bigger than we ever imagined." As their ship picked up the submarine, Lisa looked out at the alien constellations and wondered how many other worlds had legends about creatures whose eyes could command respect from any predator. Soon those legends would become reality as humans spread across the galaxy. The question was no longer whether alien predators could recognize something familiar in human eyes. The question was whether humans were ready to accept their role as the predators that the entire galaxy had been waiting for. Dr. Lisa Morgan stood before the ancient stone wall and felt her breath catch in her throat. The ruins on Haven 7 were older than anything humans had ever discovered, and the carvings on this wall told a story that changed everything she thought she knew about the universe. "Tony, can you make sense of these symbols?" she asked Dr. Tony Williams, the archaeologist who had been studying the alien writing for 3 days. Tony wiped sweat from his forehead and pointed to different sections of the wall. "It's incredible, Lisa. This isn't just one language. These carvings show the writing systems of dozens of different alien civilizations, but they're all talking about the same thing." Dr. Amy Foster, their linguist, was taking photographs of every symbol. "The age of these ruins is what amazes me most," Our dating shows this place is at least 50,000 years old, maybe older. Lisa studied the wall more carefully. Carved into the black stone were hundreds of images, but they all seemed to focus on one central theme. Eyes. Eyes of every shape and size, belonging to creatures she couldn't even imagine. Some were large and round, others were narrow slits. Some had multiple pupils, others glowed with inner light. But all of them were clearly the eyes of predators. What exactly are they saying about eyes? Lisa asked. Amy consulted her translation notes. Near as I can tell, they're describing something like a universal law. The text talks about the great chain of hunters and those who watch and are watched. Tony pointed to a section of carvings near the center of the wall. This part seems to be describing different levels of predators. Look at these images. They start with simple hunters, then show more complex ones, and finally, he traced his finger along the stone. Finally, they show something at the very top. Lisa leaned closer to see what he was pointing at. At the highest point of the wall was a carving of eyes that looked remarkably human, forward-facing, intense with an unmistakable quality of intelligence and determination. They knew, she whispered. Somehow they knew that evolution would eventually create something like humans. Dr. Chris Baker emerged from deeper in the ruins, his clothes covered in dust. You need to see what I found in the inner chamber. There's more writing, and some of it looks like instructions. They followed Chris through a narrow passage that led to the heart of the ancient structure. The inner chamber was circular with walls covered in more carvings, but these were different. Instead of just images, there were what looked like mathematical formulas and star charts. This appears to be some kind of guide, Amy said, studying the symbols. Instructions for recognizing and understanding different types of predators across the galaxy. Dr. Kate Wilson's voice came through their communication system from the ship in orbit. Lisa, I'm analyzing the brain scans from your trip to the Ouida ruins. Something very strange is happening to your neural activity. What kind of strange? Lisa asked, still staring at the alien writing. The same areas of your brain that activate during predator encounters are lighting up right now, just from being in those ruins. It's like the place itself is triggering your predator instincts. Tony had been examining the star charts carved into the wall. Lisa, look at this. These aren't just random star patterns. They're showing the locations of inhabited worlds throughout this part of the galaxy. How can you tell? Because I recognize some of them. These coordinates match planets we've already visited. Kepler 442b is here. Xerion Prime is here. Oceanus 7 is here. He traced lines between the star positions. But there are dozens of other worlds marked that we haven't been to yet. Amy was working on translating more of the text. This section talks about the final hunters and those who complete the great cycle. It says that when the final hunters arrive, they will be recognized by all others because they carry the mark of ultimate predation in their gaze. Lisa felt pieces of a vast puzzle clicking together in her mind. This isn't just about humans being good predators. This is about humans being the end result of something the universe has been working toward for millions of years. What do you mean? Chris asked. Think about it. On every world with complex life, evolution creates predators. Those predators get better and better at hunting until eventually, one species becomes the apex predator of that world. But what if that's not the end of the process? Tony looked up from the star charts. You're saying evolution doesn't stop at apex predators? I'm saying maybe the universe itself has been running an experiment. On thousands of worlds, evolution has been trying to create the perfect predator. Most attempts stop at the planetary level. But occasionally, evolution creates something that transcends planetary boundaries. Amy was reading more of the ancient text. Lisa, listen to this. When the watchers from the void arrive, they shall be known by these signs. Their eyes shall face forward like those who hunt, not sideways like those who flee. Their gaze shall hold the patience of the eternal hunt and the certainty of the final kill. All lesser hunters shall know them and give way, for they are what all predators aspire to become. The chamber fell silent, except for the sound of their breathing. Lisa realized they were standing in what might be the galaxy's oldest library, a place where ancient civilizations had recorded their understanding of cosmic predator evolution. There's more, Amy continued. It talks about consciousness being the final step in predator evolution. It says that when a predator species develops advanced intelligence, they become capable of hunting not just individual prey, but entire concepts, ideas, problems, mysteries, even the secrets of the universe itself. Kate's voice came through the radio again. I'm detecting massive electromagnetic activity from the ruins. It's like the place is activating in response to human presence. Suddenly, the carvings on the walls began to glow with soft light. Not bright enough to hurt their eyes, but clear enough to make the symbols stand out sharply against the dark stone. The ruins are responding to us, Tony said in amazement. After 50,000 years, human presence is making them come alive. Lisa understood now why apex predators from every world recognized something familiar in human eyes. They weren't just seeing another predator. They were seeing their own evolutionary destiny reflected back at them. Humans represented what every predator in the galaxy was slowly evolving toward. Intelligence combined with the relentless drive to hunt and understand everything in the universe. We're not just explorers, she said softly. We're the ultimate expression of what evolution can create when it has enough time and enough worlds to work with. We're what every predator in the galaxy is trying to become. Chris looked around at the glowing walls. So when these alien predators look into human eyes and see something familiar, they see themselves, but millions of years in the future, Lisa finished. They see what they could become if evolution continues its work. The team stood in the ancient chamber, surrounded by the accumulated wisdom of dozens of civilizations, and finally understood humanity's true place in the cosmic order. They weren't just another species exploring space. They were the inheritors of a universal evolutionary process that had been working toward their creation for billions of years. Captain Jake Sullivan's voice crackled through their radio from the ship. Away team, we're detecting more ruins on other continents. It looks like this entire planet might be covered with these structures. Lisa smiled as she looked at the glowing symbols around them. Set course for the next site, Captain. We have a lot more to learn about what the universe expects from us. As they prepared to leave the chamber, Lisa took one last look at the carved eyes that looked so remarkably human. Now she understood why every predator in the galaxy saw something familiar in human eyes. They saw the end result of evolution's greatest experiment, and they recognized it as their own ultimate destiny. The universe had been waiting for humanity to arrive, and now that they were here, it was time to discover what came next in the cosmic chain of hunters.